feel really honored and grateful to be here with Sky Swisa today. Sky, how are you doing and how's your day
Hi,
going so
Todd.
far?
I'm very excited to be here. Thank you. Doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing really great. Thank you. I saw you via Instagram and I was impressed that you blend yoga and you're a manual therapist as well in relation to lymphatic work. Is that true?
Yes, I do. I do lymphatic facial massages, and some people call them like sculpting massages, which is not accurate. It's more like for nervous system and lymph flow.
Yeah.
And I think it's a nice complementary to other holistic practices and yoga practice and movement practice in general.
Nice. That's
But
cool.
I'm not focusing on that right now,
Gotcha.
business of life. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense because I saw that you have your own yoga studio called Ananda Sky Yoga. Is that correct?
It's correct. Yes, it's located in Southern California in a small city, a small town called Fallbrook in North County, San Diego.
Nice. It's so beautiful there. My wife and I used to live in Carmel Valley and we had a yoga studio
Mm.
in Mira Mesa
Oh,
for a
really?
few years. Yeah. So I love that area. Fallbrook is such a beautiful spot. You have an accent. Where are you from originally?
Yes. So let's get over that because everybody asks, and sometimes people like are so curious, but they don't say anything, and then it keeps like being there, hanging. So I'm a Russian Israeli, which might sound in the States like a little bit unique, but actually, currently in Israel, I if I'm not mistaken, we are about like 25% or 20% of Israel is Russians Israeli. So I was born, raised in Russia until I was about 9 years old. And then I was able to immigrate with my mom, who was Israeli Jew, to Israel when I was about nine
Amazing.
years old. Yeah.
Amazing. How long did you live in Israel for?
I've lived there until my early 20s.
Wow.
And yeah, and then I started traveling. And then I got a really cool job in the diamonds industry in China, Shanghai, China.
Wow.
And I moved to China.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a part of my journey where I lived for 9 years, almost 10 years. Eh,
Amazing.
Yeah.
Did you learn the language? What
Oh
language was
yeah, I'm almost fluent in Mandarin.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
incredible. That's incredible. So obviously you speak English. Do you speak Russian?
I'm still working on my English as you can hear, but yeah, I speak English, I speak Russian. I'm
Hebrew?
fluent in Hebrew, yeah.
Wow.
So I think like
And
my
and
Hebrew
Mandarin.
and Mandarin, yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
and I'm
gosh.
trying to work on my Spanish because, as you know, in San Diego, we kind of like need to,
Yeah,
and it's also cool. But
me too.
it's
Me
not that
too.
easy anymore in my age, I guess. It was
Oh,
easier like to catch a new language as someone much younger.
that's a great point. I feel like I've been trying to learn Spanish for like 30 years and I'm still
Yeah, I know it's forever.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
funny because when I lived in Miami for a little while and I was like so
Hmm.
excited because I worked in a restaurant where I thought, oh, cool, I was the only English speaking person and everybody else knew Spanish. And so I was like, this is going to be a great opportunity for me to learn Spanish. But
To
then
practice.
my Spanish was so horrible and their English was so much better that they didn't want to practice with
You
me. They're
just
just
move
like,
to
I was
English.
butchering it. They're
Yeah,
like, come on, let's just use English. It's so much quicker.
it's
So
easier.
it's easier. So I feel like I need to move to a Latin speak or a Spanish speaking country to really get it. Like that would be,
I
I really want to
know.
do that someday. If I could, I would be so happy.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are you still in Florida, Todd?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So I do have
I-
a lot of amazing Spanish speaking people around me that will placate me every now and again and
Right.
help me
Yeah.
practice. Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
I'm
I
still
think like I've heard about your studio, by the way, from few different people who used
oh,
to practice there or work there.
really?
I guess throughout the Dharma community.
Yes.
You had a
Yeah,
couple of Dharma yogis
I
either
have.
move to Florida, right?
That's right. I know I've been very
Yes.
lucky to have a crew of Dharma yogis come through and move into Juneau, and we've established connection, and they've been incredible with introducing me to all sorts of amazing folks in the
Yeah, that's very cool.
Dharma yoga scene. So, did you study with
Yeah,
Dharma
yeah.
Mitra? Where did you do that at?
Here in New York City. I mean, not
Amazing.
here, but yeah.
So, you're in China, you're working for 10 years, and then what? You decide, I want to go to the USA.
Yeah, just like that. I mean, it happened over time. I was there. I had my main yoga teacher there, which is not where my yoga journey started. I think like I can share a little bit about that because that started in a really young age. And I'm having a very dedicated practice of a method called Navakarna. by Italian teacher Dario Colvaroso. And I'm living the diamonds industry. It was a little rough on my mental health and stress levels. It was wholesale diamonds for several years. And me and my husband decided to move somewhere. So we went to Mexico, LA, New York City, and pretty much fell in love with California. And his business at that time was even easier to maintain from California. And I could also find myself there in the holistic industry or yoga industry somehow. Also, I was pregnant when we moved. So we just decided to move to Los Angeles, California, about 6.5 years ago. Yeah. And eventually found ourselves like a little bit struggling with the faster pace of life and having three children and three private schools. And eventually we moved to a smaller town in San Diego, where I am right now,
Amazing. And
which
so
was
it
more.
sounds like you moved to LA like 2020-ish, like right
Yeah,
before
actually
during COVID.
2019,
So right before
2019,
COVID hit.
right before COVID. Yeah.
Yeah. And then where did you manage to find time to hang out in New York City and study with Dharma?
So, yeah, so my yoga practice started very early. I was 14, almost 15 years old in Tel Aviv, living with my mom, going to high school that I didn't really like, and kind of like working as a server in a restaurant, in a Chinese restaurant, funny enough, a couple times a week to make some, pocket money. And walking by myself in Tel Aviv, in the big city, which was like just 30 minutes drive from my smaller town, and seeing this Shivananda Yoga Center. And I was like, what the heck? What is Shivananda Yoga Center? That sounds cool. And 14 and a half year old me going in, asking them like, what's your story? What do you guys offer here? What's the classes are or when? And they said, listen, we have next Thursday, we have these 8 classes course begins of yoga level 1. So it's all the basics you need to know about yoga. And I'm okay, sign me in. Like I'm interested. I just sign up. I paid like basically all the money that I had at that time, which was probably a couple of $100. And I signed up for that. And I remember, and I now like reflecting back a lot because Dharma Yoga Center, they have Shivananda very close, like walking distance, couple of minutes from there in New York City. So I visited that center. So I was reflecting back and I remember like my first meeting with them, my first class out of 8. It probably was about 7 people in the room that signed up for that. And it was 2 hours practice, a little bit physical practice, a little bit pranayama, a little bit talk, conversation about diet and lifestyle. And I remember when I'm leaving, it was about probably 8 p.m., winter in Tel Aviv then, and I felt like almost probably like some sort of samadhi or some very elevated state where I was so inspired and so like I was compelled. It was a very special experience. I was captivated by this light of yoga. And I probably told to myself something like, I'm never going back, like without that. Yeah, it
Mm,
was so special.
amazing.
But then life
Yeah.
happened. So I finished the eight meetings course, and
Yeah.
then it was teenage me, and I started probably at some point drinking and smoking and having party. Um, so I had a break from yoga for a couple of years, several years before finding that again.
Nice. That's incredible to think about a 14-year-old venturing on their own and taking yoga. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
And
special. It
like
was
not
really
having
special.
a parent lead you in, where
No.
it was of your own volition and
Hmm.
to be inspired about, being in tune with your own breathing and body and at such a young age. That's incredible.
Yeah, yeah, it was special. I had this like very expensive Ganesha shirt I bought from them from the center that I really liked and I was so proud and I felt like really connected. But then, as I said, life happened and I had a few years break.
Yeah.
And then I found my second teacher or my like really meaningful teacher, Dario, who developed his own method that is a little bit beyond the physical yoga postures and even beyond the traditional yoga philosophy. He's Italian guy that left home also at a very young age to go to India and found his guru. His first guru, if I'm not wrong, was Indian dance teacher that he studied with for many years, and he developed this fascinating method that goes beyond the traditional yoga, combining meditation, breath techniques and mechanics, some sorts of almost martial arts, traditional yoga and dance, Indian dance combined
Wow.
to very powerful sequencing. And it also goes with the moon. So like the practice, the Navakarna practice goes with the moon and with what's happening around us. So it's
Wow.
not just like do what you want every day or do the same series every single day, but it's accordance with the moon. So it was very impactful and powerful practice. And also my first teacher training was there in China with him. Yeah, and then we left
Incredible.
and we
Yeah.
moved to LA. We moved to LA, and I didn't have this incredible teacher by my side anymore. He was mostly in China, Hong Kong, Japan. He was a traveling yogi, and he was based in Japan. And I said, like, I need to find a teacher. And as you know, in Southern California, yoga can be so many different things. But for me, I was lacking the discipline and the deeper meaning. So it took me a while to find a teacher, and eventually I stepped to Yancey's class. He was on your podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Uh,
stepped to Yancey's class, and okay, I think I found my LA teacher.
yeah.
I've taken some rocket yoga and Dharma classes from him, and then I took a psychic development class without really knowing. I just was curious what psychic development is, and would it change my mind, or like what is going to happen in a public class? Because usually you don't teach like things like that in a public studio.
Yes.
But what I loved about that class is it was very special and beautiful. But at the end of the class, Yancy said, "Everything I've learned and passing to you came to me from my guru, from my teacher, Sri Dharma Mittra." Maybe he actually didn't even mention the name, but he said it's from my teacher, from my guru. And I asked him some couple weeks later, "Who is your teacher?" And he said Dharma. And I immediately Googled it and I booked my first teacher training. So
Wow.
in the US.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so cool. So many. Well, first, I really enjoyed meeting Yancey. I thought he was really interesting. So
He
that's so
is.
great that
Yeah.
you got a chance to practice with him in LA.
Mhm.
And
And he also came to my studio a couple of months ago for a workshop. So it was so
oh,
nice to
very
meet him
cool. You got to
again.
be able to keep that connection going.
I know.
Oh
Yeah. Yeah.
man. Yeah,
I
that's
was so
amazing.
grateful.
And so then what has been your experience, or what was your experience going studying with Dharma in New York and doing teacher training? What unfolded for you?
So, it was funny enough that I said to myself back then, like probably 4 years ago or so, I want to take my first American yoga teacher training so I can do it in Hebrew, because my other teacher trainings were in like Chinese, and Dario was Italian, so with a heavy Italian accent, obviously, and some Chinese translation. So I want to improve my English and probably also like do it like kind of like see what they teach in America. And funny enough, I went to Dharma Mitra, who is Brazilian with not a
Yeah,
perfect English.
yeah, yeah.
But I was so happy. It was in a way like a beginning of something very unique, because I first did 200 hours with him and then came back a year later for the 500 hours. I guess it was 2 years ago. And it was so impactful and beautiful and in a way life-changing, because I felt for the first time since I moved to the US, hey, I want to pass this special practice and special knowledge to others. It's not just like for me anymore, just to have a better practice or a better um, teaching mechanics or knowledge. Like I really want to pass this to others and being able to teach. Yeah.
Amazing. And so, how long have you had your yoga studio open in Fallbrook?
So we opened just a little bit over a year ago. So it's pretty new, it's pretty fresh.
Congratulations. How does it feel?
Thank you. It feels good, as you probably know and feel as well. It's a lot sometimes. And I'm also a mother of three, so it's a lot of work, a lot of devotion, a lot of service, a lot of love. I
Yes.
do
Yes.
feel it is a labor of love.
Yes. 100%. There's no question there.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
if people look at yoga studios and go, oh, the first thing they think is, oh, they're just making lots of money. I guess we have to be very honest and let you know it's a labor of love. I mean, you can earn a living. You will earn a living if you work really, really hard. However,
yeah.
and
And you have now so many this kind of like movement studio when you just copy and paste
yeah,
and do it like make
yes,
it work and doing
yeah,
all the right things to market yourself and sell classes that are a little bit bringing us a little bit far away from true yoga,
yeah,
which, I guess is salesy in a way, but you sometimes don't feel you practice yoga anymore in some spaces, if I'm allowed
yeah.
to say, not in a
Oh,
judgmental way, because it's
yes,
still
yes,
better than
yeah,
nothing and it's
yeah,
still a service.
yeah. You know, the way that I reason that out, Sky, is that I figure we have to hold some sort of baseline. And luckily, like you have had you've had exposure to really incredible teachers in different places around the world. And so that was a really incredible opportunity for you to explore deeper dimensions of yoga. And I think that we get a chance to do that, and then we come into where the mainstream is, we have to make it appropriate for the mainstream.
Absolutely.
And that's the way the business model
Absolutely.
will work. But every now and again, we could get to go a little upstream, downstream, or off the mainstream and catch a few interesting people are interested. And then we got to pull it back in again. And
Absolutely.
it's hard to
It's
do.
this
So
really
I know it's really frustrating
balancing.
sometimes. I mean, like, but it's like ultimately, I found it to be extremely grounding at the same time. And because I can go way out there, and I find that the mainstream kind of keeps me grounded too at the same time.
Absolutely. And it's
But I hear,
transformative as well. I mean,
yeah,
even the
yeah,
yoga studios, it's now pretty almost proven that some like electronic music while you're practicing yoga can actually bring you to some very cool states of
mm,
mind.
mm,
But it's
mm,
almost like a little trendy to have this like really noisy music in a
yeah,
vinyasa
yeah,
class. I'm not sure if you
yeah,
met those. And I'm not against because with that said, my studio offers also strength and sculpt, which I really believe it's a complementary to not just like yoga or traditional yoga.
yeah,
I believe it should go hand with hand together, especially for me, woman in my 40s. I feel like I need to lift weights. I need
yeah,
to practice sculpt.
yeah,
It will not serve me anymore to just do like traditional hatha or vinyasa or ashtanga yoga or even just dharma yoga, even though it can be a strong practice.
yeah. I agree. I mean, and we're definitely evolving as we get older. So, things are just shifting and changing. So I agree 100%. Well, it's so great to meet another person on the journey. I think, what is something that happened to you throughout your life that you feel like was a big challenge that really gave you a little bit of a dark night of the soul that then you were able to overcome and rise past that challenge from?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think that I had some challenges in general growing up and even being an immigrant child, to move from one country to completely other with a parent who didn't speak the language, who was not belong, who didn't have any family. I think that it was very humbling and learning experience, but something that really shaped my practice and helped me to find yoga again was about 12 years ago. My dear mother decided to leave her physical body. She decided to commit a suicide about almost exactly 12 years ago, in fact. in a couple more months. And she was always very sensitive person and always struggled with some sort of mental difficulties. And I was in China. I was away, and I was pregnant, 6 months pregnant with my first child. That I was really eager to have her come to China and be with me, and I had this like fantasy of her coming and help me to take care of the baby and having this like perfect family of me and my marriage, and a beautiful baby comes out, and my mom is there like my helper, my parent, and having all of this beautiful fantasy that has never happened in reality. And yeah, she decided to put an end to her life, and that was the most difficult thing to me because how can that happen? This is it? Just a letter after like a life of me and you? My father was not really present, and she was a single mom, and I was a single child. So we were pretty close. And that left me with so many questions
Yes.
like, who am I?
Yeah.
And how is it just so easy? You just end the life and that's it? And just leaving a little love letter? And how can it be true? So that left me with so many questions about living and about who am I and how I'm going to parent my child, and also being left with this void of how was I as a baby? And as a mother, as a young mother, I had so many questions, but I had no one to ask because she was gone now. So I started to I had a little bit postpartum depression. It was not very severe because I did I think took care of myself. I had some energy work I was doing and acupuncture and doing all the things. And then at about 5 months after 5 to 6 months after having the baby, I started a very regular yoga practice. That's also how I a little bit later met Dario, my teacher in China. And I literally think it saved me. It gave me
Wow. Yes.
perspective.
Yes.
It gave me meaning again. Even like just on the physical level, it's like so many of us come to yoga from the physical perspective with some physical goals of feeling better, feeling more vital, losing that extra weight, or just getting stronger. So I started a very vigorous yoga practice, combining Ashtanga with I'm not sure if you heard universal yoga. Have you ever heard about that
Yeah,
style?
Andrew Lapa, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. He
yeah.
looks amazing. I've never got a chance to practice with him, but I've heard amazing things.
Yeah, so I practiced with some of his students who were trained in that method, and it was a very special, very transformative method. And then I met Dario, and the moment I stepped into the room, it just was so unique,
Yeah.
and the vibration. He was able to start the class with a specific frequency and keep the same tone with sequencing. There is no talking in the class, only the Sanskrit name of the posture. And the entire class it will chant so so inhale, exhale. And it just was so unique. And it really helped me to get out of my head and
Yes.
to realize that
Yes.
life is just so much more than my own little problems and issues. And also, slowly, I became so much in peace with what my mother decided to do. That, like, you know how to say life is not happening to you, it happens for you. But I really think it just happens. It doesn't happen for you.
Yeah.
Life just happens. And like Dharma often say, like, we just need to learn just to be with it, just to dance with it. And it just happens. And our job is to stay kind, stay present, and, bring compassion to everything we do.
Yes. You
Yeah.
know, I first
Yeah.
of all, thank you for being really honest about that. And second of all, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry for your loss. It's so hard. And third of all, I can really relate because when I was about 13, my mom attempted suicide and
Mm.
she survived it. And
And you were a part of that, knowing or witnessing.
it was hidden from me, and I was shipped out to California to be with other family to try to hide what actually happened. And so it wasn't until later, so I was in that real confused space of like, why am I here? What happened? And no one was
Mm.
talking. And then when I came back later on, it became evident, and I got to give credit to the fact that my mom then fought to survive and
Yeah,
work through some of the demons that were causing her to feel that that was the solution. But she has passed 4 years ago, and I've gone through so many different emotions and feelings about like
yeah,
the
yeah. I
tragedy
bet.
of the loss, the anger, how could you do that?
I
And
know.
now
And the
coming
grief.
to
And
grips with it, that like, understanding suffering and yeah. So I guess thank you so much for being honest about all that. And I really feel what you're talking about. And it's hard, but I like that you're putting emphasis on how powerful and important yoga practice has been in your life to help
mm,
as a parent. Because now, as a parent, one thing for me after going through that is that I've made a vow I will never, ever do that to my kids. I will
I know.
never,
I
ever
know.
choose
Oh
that
my God.
as the solution because after feeling what that feels like, I would just never repeat that. So I
I
think
know.
that's one of the greatest blessings out of it. And now when I communicate with my mom and talk to her, I feel like now I understand, more. I can understand more, but I'm thankful to her to show me that no matter
Yeah.
how depressed I get, I will never do that. So
Yeah, I
anyway,
know. I know.
yeah,
But with
sorry to
that
go.
said, I know. Thank you for sharing, Todd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And I experienced something very similar when I was 11 and the family tried to hide from me but I was more involved. So I saw this scenario in my eyes. So it was like a little bit harder to hide. But I know what you're talking when the family tries to protect you, but you're completely aware and in the know that something is wrong,
Yeah.
something is off.
Yeah.
But yeah, my mom fought for about 20 years, which is a lot. And a lot of that for me. And I know I was loved. I know I was cared for as much as she could. And I also know that some of the things she has experienced as a human in this world, as a very ultra sensitive, almost angelic human, is way beyond what I can imagine because I love life. I love being around people. I love also my alone time, and I struggle with many different things, such as ADD. That as a yoga studio owner and a parent, it's like a lot. But however, you can just
Yeah.
imagine, right? You can. Oh my goodness, it's interesting ride, isn't it?
Yes.
But
Well,
with that said,
yeah, yeah,
I don't think I've never experienced the deep pain and disconnection from this human world as she did. She truly suffered. If after so many years she couldn't resist anymore and she said, like, this is it, this is the end, I'm going to do it. And it's something that, like, I know it had to be her choice. And I only, you know, we can be responsible for ourselves as much as we could, but we can't really blame it on ourselves to be responsible for others. And I had to be in peace with that. But I just know that the things she felt and been through, I have not been there.
yeah.
Those points in those blues and downs.
Yes. Understood. Understood. Well, well, let me try to steer us in a little more of a different direction just so that
Yeah, absolutely.
we can balance
Absolutely. Yeah,
the intensity with because right away I want to keep going down more
I know.
intensity
I
because
know.
it's because as I look at the world right now, I'm like going, oh my goodness. But nonetheless, let me back up a little bit because as the day that we're recording today is March 4th, I'll probably release this sometime in April, so maybe it'll be a whole month from now. But Yesterday was the full moon, and and I'm fascinated by the fact that you have connection to Israel, you have connection to China, and now you have connection to America and you know even beyond, I'm sure. And so I have students here in the studio that are from Israel, that are from China, and
Oh, that's so cool.
from all over the world. And so
Yeah.
with the moon, with the full moon yesterday, I guess we're coming out of a 2 week period of the Chinese New Year, going from the new moon to the full moon of the Lunar New Year. And so there was all
Hmm.
this talk yesterday about like with this full moon that it's like very transformative and we're going through a blood moon eclipse and like all this information about the moon and the intensity of what's going on and how we can process it. And some of the direction that I heard was just stay really grounded, just remain grounded. There's going to be a lot of information coming
Yeah.
your way, and we're going to be easily pulled all over the place and maybe made crazy by it. But if we can somehow stay grounded. So I'd like to hear from your side of the coin or what you're thinking in relation to what are the main techniques that you're employing right now to remain a strong, grounded mom and wife and partner and studio owner?
That's such a good question, Todd. Um, I'm as a yogi and as a human being, I just love being alone. And as much as I love community, as much as I love my children and my husband and my friends, I don't have that many friends, but I have some, especially since the yoga studio, I have more and more. But I thrive when I have this 1 hour, 2 hours per day, or you can call it a treat once a week, maybe a full day, half a day, just to be alone. Just go for a little walk, or even just to go to feed my chickens. We have a very sweet, only two chickens there, but we have a backyard, and just like going outside, I really feel grounded when I'm going barefoot. In fact, when I did the Dharma yoga teacher training and it was, busy Manhattan, I will, or Flatiron in New York City, I would go barefoot in the middle of the summer and just go to this like tiny piece of land or a park and just stand there for like 60 seconds. I know sometimes, I don't know, maybe it doesn't work for 60 seconds enough, but I just feel grounded just being myself and having this connection to nature in some level. It can be just being outside for 10 minutes and gaze at the sunrise or sunset. But that grounds me without any fancy meditation techniques. Pranayama grounds me and makes me feel more connected. I would practice Brahmari, humming bee breathing whenever I feel like a little bit scattered in my mind or messy in my mind or too many like exhaustion, overwhelm, or like thoughts coming at the same time. And I also love Joe Dispenza meditations.
Cool.
So
Cool.
these
Yeah.
few things, I
Yeah.
not I'm not perfect. I don't do all these things
Mhm.
every single day. I do try to be outside and barefoot every morning. And I have the red light, which I also use for face and for my treatments when I do them. And I like to just go to the my little office room and or treatment room and put the red light on me and put some meditation. It's typically Joe Dispenza and just like hang there 20 minutes with no interruptions. That is
Yeah.
like my
Nice.
perfect grounding self-care. Yeah.
Very cool. All great ideas. I love all of them. Thank you. What are you noticing from your community? When I went on your website, I really like your website, by the way. When I went on your website, I saw
Thank you.
that you're welcome, that you had, I think one of the workshops you have coming up is like a women's circle,
Hmm.
something of that nature. How can you tell me a little bit? Are you involved in that, or is that something that somebody else is
Yeah.
leading and you're renting your space or letting them use your space? And can you talk a little bit about what your intentions are with that type of work?
So actually, I always wanted to be a part of women's circles or so women's tribes or like having all these girlfriends or sisters around me because I don't have like any physical connections with I don't have sisters. And now that my mom is gone, I miss it even more. So I always like kind of craved this, womanhood around me. And but it never really manifested itself, if it makes sense. I would go here and there to women's circle, and sometimes it was a little transformative. Sometimes I didn't come back from some reasons. And then just before I opened my studio, I was like thinking, should I do that? Or is it like too scary? I don't know anyone in this town. What if nobody comes? Or, I had so many doubts and thoughts. But deep inside, I knew like it's just something that has to happen. And just before that, I hosted my first women's circle in my backyard at sunset. It was, I believe it was a new moon, and about 20 women showed up. It was a free women's circle, and I guided some a little meditation, a little movement, and a little share, and then we shared some food or chai, and it was really beautiful. And
Yeah.
then I said, like, if I had to open my studio, we will have this space when women can simply come together, maybe even with your pajamas or something super simple. It's not about like taking fancy photos and uploading to Instagram. It's gonna be about simply being you and spending time with community, with other people, without any expectations of certain movement. And we have another partner and a friend of mine, dear Zala. She's a Muslim, beautiful woman, and she organized us, and we collaborate. Sometimes I bring a guest, sometimes she will bring a guest, and we typically just do it together as a little partnership at the studio.
Yeah. Incredible. What type of feedback did you receive or are you receiving?
Yeah, people, I think like one of the best things that come out is people saying we had a break now for a little bit, and then we had a sound healer who offered one, and we will come back to it after the end of like beginning of spring, official beginning of spring in a couple of weeks. But the biggest and nicest feedback I think that keeps me feel how meaningful it is people just feel heard and seen as they are without needing to perform, move, doing some like crazy yoga postures. They simply can come and be in community and chat, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Amazing. Sky,
simple as that.
I hear you. I like the fact that you have a good friend who's Muslim and you have Jewish background. Can you talk a little bit about how you believe that no matter what our backgrounds are, faiths and or religions and or color and or
Mm.
creed, can all honor each other and live peacefully together?
Yeah, I think
I
I'm
believe that. I believe that. And
I believe that.
I had people
I
would tell me, they'd be like, no, that can't happen. There's been war and fighting forever. And I'm like, well, yeah, but don't you want to try? Like, shouldn't we
but
at
we know
least
it's
try?
nonsense, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
know it's the illusion. It's a part of the illusion, and this separation is a part of this big illusion. Um, we got plied, and I think that the source is the same thing, right? Divinity and God is the same, and there are actually so many similarities between these biggest religions, Christ and Jewish religion and Jewish God and Muslim and Allah. It's it's a lot about love, and I think that, by the way, I'm half a Christian, half Jewish. My dad is from a Pravoslavic Christian church, and my mom is Jewish that actually went even more and more extreme and Orthodox as I grew up. She became very Orthodox and big believer of this lifestyle. But she also loved Osho, and she loved yeah, she actually was a little yogi inside,
Yeah.
and I was resenting that as a teenager. I was like, that's like a lot of nonsense, mom. I don't really want to hear
Wow.
about all that. But then when I started my yoga journey, it's like it just all made sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's classic.
Um, but I think it's just all the same to me. And at the studio, by the way, we have a photo of Shivananda, we have a picture of Dharma Mitra, and we have a photo of Jesus. And I will probably add some more yogis and yogi females photos soon. But I think it just all connected, and the source is the same. We have different interpretations, different opinions, different lifestyles, but the source is so much the same, so much rooted in love.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Well said. Yes, I do agree.
How is it for you, like being in a studio where there is diversity as well?
Oh, it feels
And
amazing. Oh my gosh, yeah. Like in this morning, I taught a Mysore Ashtanga class, and we were all joking around. I have one student from Israel, and she's teaching us Hebrew. So
that's so cool.
we were learning different things we could say in Hebrew. I have students that are from Peru and from all over Central and South America. So we will trade words from here and there and work with Sanskrit words. And I feel like just kind of have fun together. And it's real simple.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's what's amazing about the yoga community because it's a little less. I mean, now yoga can get extremely dogmatic. It can get kind of
it
orthodox.
can.
It can get like an orthodoxy style yoga, but I think
Yeah.
the general gist in yoga is that it's like a neutral ground, in my opinion. It just feels very neutral ground, so then anybody can come in. I don't think it treads on the toes of any believing
Right.
individual. So we have people of all faiths that are coming
Hmm.
in. I think that it's interesting in relation to using Sanskrit. Like I remember at one point I was doing the opening mantra for Ashtanga and I had a student, and this is right after 9/11 happened, and she came up to me and she said, "Oh, is that the chant that the people that were flying on the planes that hit the Twin Towers were chanting?" And I said, well, actually, the Sanskrit language and Arabic are two different languages. So, no, it was most definitely not, most likely not. However,
That's
right,
funny. Funny
right.
question.
Yeah, interesting, right? Just the association that any foreign word that I don't understand means it's got to be bad. It's
Yeah, or
got, you know what I
dark.
mean? Like, I'm
Right.
scared. I'm scared. So I don't know. I just think that yoga opens the mind and it helps us to
Absolutely.
be open-minded about learning. And then the fear that we have of like, I won't be able to learn that. Like we encounter that on everything, like with movement, like we'll see a pose and we'll think, I'll never be able to do that. But then if we keep working on it before you know it, you can do it.
Yeah.
Or like a language, I don't understand that language, but you kind of immerse yourself in before you know it, you understand it. So I think that's what for me is what's really beautiful about yoga.
Yeah. And when you don't have these like entitles and attachments
Yeah.
to all the things,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I can't do that or I have to do that, or if the
Yeah.
room is not set in a certain way, I'm not going to practice there, or if the instructor does too many mantras, I'm not, supposed to.
Yeah.
There are so many attachments, and once we try to let go of some of these attachments and remind ourselves this is just our mind,
Yeah.
how funny it is that our biggest problems are usually just our mind
Yep.
creating those issue for us or to us.
Agreed. Agreed. How are you from a parenting angle? How has yoga helped you be a more in tune and listening parent?
That's such interesting question.
Because parenting's tough. Parenting's tough, man. Parenting is like,
Man, parenting is so tough. It's like it's like, oh my goodness. Um, I try to remind myself that my kids are not mine. That yeah, I'm their parent and I have responsibility, but my expectations of how exactly they should be or how they should perform or how they should behave and who they're meant to be. I'm just here to serve, to educate them, to be responsible for their growth, but they have their own dharma, they have their own path. And I hope to be in service for them, to inspire them, to be open minded and respectful and thrive and to love themselves. I really feel it's important for me to teach them to love themselves, especially my daughter, because I feel like girls in this world, they have so many how things should be, how should they look like, and so many expectations. And yoga grounds me. Yoga and my practice reminds me to take a deep breath when I'm feeling like I'm going to lose it because my son is a little bit losing it. It's not perfect, We have hard moments, and having two boys that are very active and very strong personalities, it's not always easy. But yes, yoga and different practices remind me like to just hey, chill and take a deep breath before you respond or before you start yelling. And
Yeah,
yeah.
good answer. Yeah, I hear you on that. We covered a bunch of different topics without asking you a question, and you can take as long as, well, I guess this is a question, but anyway, let me just go for it. Without, you can take as long as you want to respond. Is there anything that you want to talk about that I haven't questioned you down? Is there anything that's like on your heart, on your mind, in your thoughts of late that you think is an avenue we could go down?
Um,
It's a harder way to do it. It's easier if I
Good
just come out.
question.
It's easier if I just come out and ask you a question, but
I
I
mean,
think sometimes when I do this, I love to just like there's got to be something that's really kind of active for you right now, and I just, I don't know if I can
I
pull it out
know.
or
So like
find it. So
one
yeah.
one thing will be probably me dealing with ADHD that I never got diagnosed and I just found out
Yes,
kind of
please.
slowly.
Yeah,
So this is one avenue you can choose. And the second, like it's been like kind of wild for me that so many yoga teachers and even online people, there is this like thing with being vegan or being carnivore or going to a meat diet or whatever. But these people both from direction of veganism, and I've been vegan for 20 years, but I'm not anymore. Um, because I just felt it didn't serve my body anymore. For now, it might change. But just seeing both angles kind of like fight each other and attack each other, both in person and online, like you're doing wrong by going vegan, or you're doing so much trouble for the earth and for yourself and for others by eating meat, or it's just like so silly in my opinion, and takes you so much away from your truth, being in that state of judgment. So I don't know, like these kind of two things I think I've been just thinking a little bit about recently. But we can also go to any other direction.
Well, no, those are great talking points. I think, well, I agree 100% with dietary stuff. I feel like that's such a personal thing. I've been in yoga cliques or circles where if you weren't adhering to one specific way, and they've been both ways. When I took, I mean, I know a lot of people discredit Bikram Chowdhury as being a really good or valid yoga teacher because of his actions, but at one point when I was
Hmm.
taking teacher training with him, we were in a really hot room in LA, and he was like,
Uh-huh.
you have to eat meat." He's like, you have to eat meat. Don't be fruitarian, vegan, vegetarian, and coming in here and sweating like this. You need
You
serious
said that.
protein. Yeah, to the whole group, everybody like.
Uh-huh.
And so, as the person who's looking at yoga, going, but isn't it supposed to be vegetarian? Everyone's supposed to be doing vegetarian, right? And so he was so the other side of it, which could have
Mm,
been he was a little bit more from like the left hand kind of path of like eat meat, do whatever drugs you want, like just live life, have as much sex as you want, take advantage of
yeah,
people. I mean, he took that way too far down the left-hand path, in
absolutely.
my opinion.
Hmm.
100%. I don't agree. But then you have the other side where it was like, no, my gosh, if you eat meat, you're evil and you're bad and you're the worst person in the whole world. And it's so funny to me that I've seen both sides of it. And I
Absolutely.
can't agree with you more on that, Sky. That has
Yes,
to be a personal preference thing. And why are we judging other people?
I know. I mean, if you're in the state of yoga, unity, love, you do what's right for you. You inspire people to be healthier. I do think there is a lot of problems in recent years with veganism by having all these brands. I don't want to say specific brand's name, but there are so many vegan brands that put so much shit. Like, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say this
You
for the
can
new
say that.
podcast.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
But,
you can just.
yeah, they put so much bad shit into their meat.
Oh,
And
there's your kitty cat.
yeah, look, this is Wally. This is the cat.
Hey, Wally.
How cute
Yeah.
it is.
He puts his head right up in there. Yeah.
I locked the other kitty in the room because she's like literally
They
all
all love
over
it.
me. She
Yeah.
loves people. So yeah, there is so much fucking bad stuff in that. And
Yeah.
that's a problem because we as vegans, we want to keep our bodies sattvic and healthy. But then we eat all this processed so-called meat, right? Just to get the protein, but we get so much harmful ingredients into our bodies. From the other hand, um, yeah, I think eat meat, eat whatever you need for your body to thrive. I do think if I will eat meat, and currently I do, for a while, I will make sure or try to inspire others around me to make sure it's kind of like from a sustainable farm or maybe a small local farm that actually loves the animals that they grow and treat them nicely. And yes, and the first time I have became vegan was at that age, just before meeting Shivananda. I was 14 years old, and I was volunteering for a vegan organization called Anonymous in Tel Aviv, that was funded by an American family, American Jew family. And we will go to grocery stores and supermarkets in Israel and do graffiti, meat is murder. And
Hmm.
back
Hmm.
then, to 14 rebellious year old me, that seems like very smart to be a part of that and to be like a little bit to advocate for animals.
And
And I'm
defend,
actually,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'm actually kind of proud I did it because it served, at that time it was my purpose. I felt like that was my goal to help this organization. I was a part of this place probably for a couple of years. And I really now, as more, I have much more discernment. I see at any direction, if you believe in what you do, but you harm others by being judgmental, by saying like that's not good, your lifestyle is like it's not great, you're hurting others. It's aggressive and it's not respectful, and that's not the purpose of yoga. I know some yoga studio owners who will not hire someone because they were not vegan, right? And I
Oh,
know
yeah.
some others who don't care
Yeah.
about any of that and just want to make their living or be neutral all the time. So like, we just need to let
Yes.
things be as they are without like trying to force anything. We can inspire by being better, by being more mindful.
Agreed.
What do you think?
Yes. Thank you so much, Sky. I appreciate you weighing in on that. I think that's a really important one.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel it's like kind of burning now because there are so many people that go on a meat diet, on like carnivore diet that became more and more popular. Include some lots of vegans who vegetarian people who transforming from that to being like completely on the meat diet, and it's not always balanced.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some of them experience after some time like that some issues, some inflammation. So but I really don't think like we should be in that state like if I'm vegan I really will hate on all the others who because they are hard animals. But if I'm carnivore now, I will look like all these vegans probably unhealthy or not nourished enough or sick or things like that, or kill all the plants and
I
all the tiny animals.
I hear you. One thing that really helped me understand and form my feelings around this to my own personal balance was I was in India and I took an Indian cooking class, and the
Hmm.
woman that was teaching it, she said, you know, you Americans, it's like either you're allergic to this or you're allergic to that, or
Hmm.
you can't eat this or you can't eat that. And it's like
It's
so
funny, it's
picky. She was
true.
like, we're just grateful to have some food. And if we have some rice and we have this and this is what we have available for us. And I was just kind of like, oh, that's really fascinating. Like, is that an entitlement thing that I get to choose all these different things to be really opinionated about in terms of
I
my diet?
know.
And then
Yeah.
and then when I hear about monks that take a vow of, say, like a wandering mendicant that just comes with a bowl, and if, whatever's given, they receive and eat, even if it isn't what is their ideal thing, I always think that's
Yeah.
interesting too, because then it's just, I am grateful I have food. Do I have food
Yeah.
today? What's in front of
I
me and what
know.
can I, and I just think that that helps to bring a little balance for me. That helped bring a little balance in there of just appreciating the fact that I have food today. This is amazing. I have clean water and I have food.
Oh my
Thank
God.
you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Thank you. It's just like the simple things, having a roof above our heads, being
Yes.
safe,
Yes.
where so many people experiencing unsafety,
I
and
know.
just say thanks
Especially
for the
right
food that
now.
we
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, Sky. Well, I am so grateful to have this chance to have you on the podcast. Thank you for being so honest and open with me, and
Thank
just
you.
just easy to converse with, and for sharing your perspectives. I really appreciate it. Is there any words of wisdom or inspiration that you'd like to leave us with?
Hmm. That's such an interesting question. I think that I like how Dharma sometimes says that everything should be updated. He likes to say that. So he sometimes refers this as actually why to become a vegan again if you drop that practice and you're not vegan anymore. He would sometimes say, Ayurveda still using ghee and things like that, but everything should be updated. But I really feel like to anything in life, whether we're looking at our practice or at some biohacking things we do or whatever we do, but even our own opinions, everything could and should be updated according to what we are dealing with right now in the world around us. Because we are not just like living by ourselves, we live as a part of an ecosystem. So I feel like even my opinions or my teaching style or my leadership skills or my parenting should be updated, right? Everything around us could be better or just more refined. I shouldn't say better, but just more updated.
Oh, I love that.
What's going on? So
Yes. Thank you so much, Sky. That's
yeah.
awesome. Yes.
Yes, thank you. I had
You're
a
you're
fun
welcome.
conversation.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I look forward when I have family in Southern California. So next time we're there, I will reach out.
Yeah, I would love to see you, and I'll reach out if I'm in Florida.
Please
I've
do.
never been
Please
to
do.
yet. Yeah.
Please do. It's
All
warm and
right.
sunny. All right. Thank you so
I
much.
know. I know. Thank you. Nice talking to you.